It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look on the Sharp Interactive board, you're going to see the logos of the mega dealers in our space and the private equity behind those mega dealers. And I want to share some thoughts. In 2023, a year that we only have 3 months left on, our industry got an education. Our industry also got an alarm bell. Our industry got a warning. And that education came from Visual Edge IT. Visual Edge IT ran around and bought up copier dealers, trying to inject IT services into that business model. Their CEO and chairman, Austin, went on the show with a guy with a hat and explained his IT services deliverable. The day that he explained that was the day that I realized that's why Ares Capital put one of their loans at non-accrual in September of 2022. That's why Ares Capital ended up swapping debt for equity. That's why Ares Capital has 65% equity in the company. And that's why all the other folks that had shares in that company are probably not going to get a payday. The aspirations that everybody had when that thing started are not going to be reality when that thing ends. And I'm hoping our industry pays attention to it. Because, ladies and gentlemen, as I look at the mega dealers and I listen to some of these folks in these mega dealers talking about IT services, talking about how they want to go out and buy copier companies that have IT. If they could get a copier company with IT, that'd be fantastic. When I hear that, I get horrified. Let me tell you why. Ladies and gentlemen, if you buy another copier dealer, you know what? You can inject that into your infrastructure in 5 seconds. I mean, the only thing that could be possibly different is the contract's called something else. The terms of the contract are a little bit different. But the deliver itself to the end user is exactly the same. They deliver a piece of equipment to an end user, they supply it and they service it. You can go buy another copier dealer, inject that into your infrastructure, and you can do that really, really quickly. The time that it takes to get it completely done is mostly just connecting the softwares together. But the deliverable itself, the discipline to do the deliverable, happens overnight. And unfortunately, our industry thinks we can do the same thing with IT. We're going to go out there and buy a copier dealer that has an IT business? What? So that copier dealer that has that IT business has a different persona customer they sell. That particular IT company in that copier dealer has no value for fee-based assessments. That particular IT company in that copier dealership will sell anybody anything. They'll sell something for $1,000 a month and be happy. And then you're going to buy another copier dealer that has an IT business, and that dealer, well, he's focused on a persona of a customer. He's focused on discipline. He or she demands fee-based assessments. He or she demands that there's a ceiling. There's a minimum on what they'll accept a contract for. And really, disciplined companies today, that's like $7,500, $10,000 a month. So how in the world are you going to buy all these different companies with IT services deliverables that are all completely different and try to integrate all that into your business model? This is the reason I'm convinced that the Doyles never got in IT, because I think they're smart enough to figure that out. They can buy a copier deal, roll that up, and be done with it tomorrow. IT, are you kidding me? It's a mess. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know why you just don't buy up the copier dealers. And those of you that want to get into IT, but do it organically. What do you need? You're going to get some copier dealer IT company and then hope that the leadership in the IT company can help you do something miraculously? Why don't you just go out and hire the right people that can do something miraculously? Go out and hire the people that are going to cost you a crap load of money, but they're going to come into your business and they're going to build an IT company for you. I don't know what our industry, why we still think like it's 1990. We're not going to sell IT services to all of our copier customers. It's one of the reasons that I'm so excited about impact networking. Think about it. Fee-based assessments mandatory. Think about it. Minimum contract cost. Impact's not out there buying up a bunch of IT services companies trying to figure it all out. They're building it organically, and they've done quite well and very successful at it. And ladies and gentlemen, there's a reason they're successful at it. Because every customer they sell, they understand who they're selling, why they're selling them, and they understand the value from the customer. And more importantly, they understand the cost to deliver the customer. When you run around and you buy up all these different disciplines, you're going to have so many different minds involved in this that it'll be a disaster. And quite honestly, if the leaders don't understand IT and they're not willing to spend the real money to get the leaders in there that do, it's never going to work. And I will tell you this, there's a lot of folks that have pretty good IT services companies out there. And they get really excited to sell to the copier dealer. But I'm going to tell you something. I really believe that if you buy an IT services company and the leader of that IT services company tells you, this is fantastic, You got all these salespeople. That's just what we need. We're going to be able to sell IT to all your customers. If they have that conversation with you, don't buy the company, because I believe they're living in a pure fantasy. And that fantasy was something that was developed in the 1990s. Ladies and gentlemen, look, I realize that some of these folks worked really hard at these companies. These companies have been with private equity for a long time. They're not all a mess like Visual Edge IT, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, it's really scary when I listen to our thought leadership in our industry talking about IT, talking about how you're going to grow your IT business by running around buying up a copier company that has an IT deliverable and hope the executives work out. I mean, that scares the hell out of me. Don't do it. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about some of our roll-ups really quick. So we got Marco that's been with Norwest Equity Partners for a long time. And Norwest Equity Partners also owns a company called Cortelligent. Cortelligent is a true IT services company. And a true IT services company that was born an IT services company, you know what they can do? They can actually go out and buy another IT services company, because they're going to have the right human capital in place, and they're going to be able to clean that thing up overnight, and they're going to be able to fire the customers they don't want, and they'll have a strategy. They know what they're looking at when they assess the company. And they're never going to bring a company into their portfolio that they have to spend more money on than doing it organically. They don't just do things for the fun of it. But I'm thinking that Cortelligent, if they met with Norwest Equity Partners and they said, hey, why don't you sell us Marco's IT business? Ladies and gentlemen, I heard a long time ago that power is not something somebody gives you, you take it. I think that these private equity people, they're waiting for some boldness. Cortelligent, go in there and say, look, give us Marco's IT business. We're going to clean that up. We'll put it in our portfolio. If it's something that fits your right customer profile. If not, then don't do it. But I think Marco probably has a pretty disciplined IT. Probably not quite as disciplined as I want it. But at the end of the day, there might be something there between Cortelligent and Marco IT. And then Norwest Equity Partners would be left with what? A big giant print company that they could probably exit from pretty quickly. I think the reason they can't exit out of Marco is because nobody wants this big print company with this IT company. It's too confusing. IT people don't want anything to do with print. And the print people that would buy it don't have enough sophistication to take on that kind of an IT company. That's the reality. But Cortelligent, you might have an opportunity. When I think about FlexPrint, FlexPrint is owned by Oval Partners. Oval Partners has two assets. So from a private equity standpoint, they're the smallest one on the board for sure. There's nothing wrong with that, but they have two assets. They have FlexPrint. FlexPrint's all about print. They have a company called New Charter, which is all about IT. Let me talk about FlexPrint first. I believe that FlexPrint probably pays Oval Partners a pretty good return. I believe Oval Partners is probably pretty happy with FlexPrint. But I also believe that the aspirations that Oval Partners had for FlexPrint, especially around the exit strategy, have completely changed since the day they started that deal. And I believe that Oval Partners is just milking the cow till there's no more milk, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as they're making money as they go. They're going to make money off the decline of print, and sooner or later, they'll go ahead and exit from FlexPrint. Someone will get that and get a pretty good deal probably. And then I look at this New Charter Technologies, and here's my concern with that, and I've said this before. I believe you're using the global model to buy IT services companies. In other words, we're going to have all these owners in place. We're going to have all these different names. Nothing's going to change and all this fantasy stuff. I just don't think it's going to work. Because you could do that to a degree with FlexPrint. Because again, all those deliverables were exactly the same. It was easy. But it ain't going to be easy doing it with a bunch of different IT services companies. Oval Partners, hold them to the fire. Really dig deep into that. And get to a point where you're ready to say, okay, we got to try something different. Because I'm telling you right now, in my mind, I don't think it's going to work. UBO. I did an episode earlier this year, but in February of 2022, UBO took on another lender. And I believe the reason they took on the other lender is because they hit their debt ceiling with Centennial. They brought in Churchill. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm concerned about the private equity groups that have massive amounts of debt. Because these massive amounts of debt are going to be highly impacted as interest rates continue to climb. We're paying the highest interest we've paid in 20 years. That's going to play a toll on these companies that are saddled in debt. When I look at Novatech brought in Trivest for recapitalization when the owners wanted to leave. Novatech's being run by Dan Cooper, who came out of Global. And I look at that deliverable, and I look at what they're doing in the marketplace, and I have some concerns. Because if they're going to buy copier companies that have IT, kind of hope it all works out. I don't think it's going to work. I think they would be much better off focusing on buying the copier company. And keep in mind, if they do have IT, you might end up getting rid of all of it, the people included. Because if you're really disciplined on that IT deliverable, there is no way in the world that you can buy and add all these different personalities and all these different deliverables. It'll never work. You'll never be able to monetize that. Now let's talk about Dex Imaging, because ladies and gentlemen, I got a sweet spot for Dex. You know, Dex Imaging was bought by Staples in February of 2019. In late 2018, I did an episode and I talked about how either Office Depot or Staples would buy a mega dealer in our space. February 2019, Dex Imaging's bought by Staples. That was a strategic buy. I believe that was the last big home run in our industry. But I also believe that Dex Imaging is in position for another home run. Because I believe the Sycamore Partners and Staples will sell Dex back to the Doyles. Look, folks, you know, I was all excited about Office Depot or Staples buying a mega dealer in 2018. But then we had a global pandemic. We got the highest interest rates in 20 years. We got retail business falling off a cliff. There's a lot of obstacles. The aspirations that I had, that I envisioned about them coming together, have completely changed. And I think they've changed over at Sycamore Partners and Staples as well. But I believe that Dan Doyle can buy that thing back. And I believe when he gets it back, it'll be for 30 or 40 cents on the dollar. I want to make that prediction because I really think it's going to happen. And if that happens, think about what he could do now. Now he could go over to Visual Edge, private equity Ares Capital, and say, you know what, we'll take Visual Edge. We don't want anything to do with the IT. We're going to liquidate all of that. But we want the print business. They might even be able to do a deal with Ares Capital, because Ares Capital would probably bet more on Dex Imaging than they ever would bet again on Visual Edge and the leadership there. They did that already. It didn't work out. But you know what? If Dex Imaging picked up Visual Edge Print, they'd be getting close to that $1 billion that Dan wants. But boy, it gets better. Can you imagine if Core Intelligent ended up getting the IT piece from Marco, and then Norwest Partners said, you know what, Dex, we want to sell you Marco, just the print piece. They'd gobble that up in a second. And now he's well over the $1 billion. And ladies and gentlemen, I believe that Dex Imaging can probably make it work. You know why? Because when Dex Imaging buys copier businesses, he doesn't use the global model. He uses the Dex model. And I got to tell you something. I think the Dex model is a lot better model than the global model. I think the fantasy about buying up all these independent companies and keeping all this autonomy and all these names, I think is nuts. I think the global model had its time, but its time has passed. We don't know what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, but I hope our industry learns the lesson that was presented to them in 2023. You better have discipline. You better understand the customer you want to sell to. And you better be willing to make the investment if you want to move into IT and you want to be successful at it. Because everybody watching me knows this: status quo is the killer of all that will be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all tomorrow.